Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play Dungeon Kart.
Woo! Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Vroom vroom.
Dungeon Kart is a 2 to 6 player game designed by Michael Zireb and published by Brotherwise Games, who helped sponsor this video.
Now in this game what you'll be doing is you'll choose a kart, choose a racer, and you'll try to get the coveted first place prize by racing.
Of course you will.
Yes. Now what you see here is still in prototype version, so the final components may look slightly different. Please refer to your rulebook for the most up-to-date components and rules.
But with that out of the way, let's head on over to the table and learn how to play.
Let's do it. As always, you'll begin by setting up. You'll first assign the first player. Then you'll deal racer cards equal to the number of players plus 1. Starting with the first player, each player will choose any of the available racers they wish to play for the game. You'll then lay out the same number of dashboards, and this time, starting with the last player and going in reverse order, each player will choose a dashboard. You'll then decide on the racetrack. You can choose from the pre-built racetracks or build your own. When building your own, make sure the lines on the track connect, and if you're not building a connected track, make sure to place the finish line at the end of the race. Once your track is built, populate each hazard hex with a random hazard. You'll then prepare the supply, placing zombies, coins, spell markers, and all the necessary resources within reach, along with the spell cards, which you'll separate into 3 decks and shuffle. You'll find the placement track based on your player count and place the player markers and standees in the matching space corresponding to the turn order. You're now ready to play. Dungeon Kart is played in rounds. Each round, each player will get a turn, which consists of multiple steps. You'll keep playing until one player crosses the finish line, at which point you'll finish the round and the player who traveled furthest past the finish line wins. Before we get started, let's quickly look at our racers and dashboards. Each dashboard comprises of the speed setting, which will indicate how many movement points you'll get to spend, and the various terrain and conditions that impact your speed settings. The dashboards also showcase the actions you can take on your turn, which we'll go over shortly. Lastly, each dashboard will have 2 unique special abilities. Top speed, for example, means that the higher speeds are higher than those of other dashboards. On the other side, handling means that the 1 turn per game will cause 0 movement points instead of 1. Now these are just examples. Each dashboard is unique in this way and may affect your driving conditions and strategy. Each racer card also has 2 powers, upper and lower power. Powers are activated by spending coins you gather as you race around the track. Now let's go over what a player turn looks like. First thing you'll do is set speed and gain movement points. At the starting line, you'll start at the lowest setting. On your turn, you'll be able to shift once up, down, or stay where you are. In this case, we'll shift up, meaning we have 5 movement points to use this turn. The next phase, as you may have guessed it, is using the movement points you have. Here is where the actions on your board come into play. You have 4 actions you can take. Some may be taken multiple times, but others may only be taken once per turn. Let's go over the 2 actions you can only do once per turn. First action is churn. Once per turn, you can pay 1 movement point to churn your racer. Your racer will remain in the hex they're in, but are able to rotate 60 degrees in either direction. If you have handling, your dashboard will remind you that this action costs 0 movement points instead of 1. Drift is the other action that may only be taken once per turn. When drifting, you may move your standee forward and to the side 1 hex without changing the direction of your racer faces. This action will cost movement points equal to the pips in the tile you're drifting into, unless your car has traction, in which case it always costs 1 movement point regardless of the terrain type. Now onto the actions that can be taken multiple times per turn. Move. Driving is a basic action in this game. Here, you'll move your standee in the direction you're facing and pay movement points corresponding to the pips on the space in front of you. Now, important note here, at the end of your movement, as long as you have at least 1 movement point left, you can enter 1 more hex, even if the cost of the hex is more than the movement points you have. This will end your movement. Bump is the next action we'll talk about. Now, you're able to enter the same hexes as your opponents, however, you cannot end your turn in the same hex. This is where a bump comes into play. If you're in the same hex, you can spend 1 movement point to move your opponent racer into 1 hex in front of them, straight or left or right. If your card has a heavy ability, you can do this for 0 movement points. Now the last action that is not on your dashboard is the brake action. You will rarely use this action, hence the omission in the player dashboard. You may spend 1 movement point to adjust your speed down 1 setting. This may be useful depending on where you are at the race. The reason that action matters is because you have to spend all your movement points, even if it causes you to crash into a wall. Now let's talk about that. There's 2 ways you'll have to end your movement early: crashing or spinning out. Both happen as a result of hitting certain hazards, being targeted by player spells, or running out of maneuvering room before you spend all your movement points. When spinning out, you'll end your movement and adjust your speed to the second lowest setting. When crashing, you'll end your movement and adjust your speed to its lowest setting. At the start of your next player turn, you can change your cart to face any direction. One last thing is you may have noticed terrain type on your dashboard as well. At the end of your turn, you'll set your speed to the most difficult terrain you've entered into, which will in turn slow you down for the next turn. Players will take their turns picking up coins and spells they pass through, but making sure to avoid hazards. Now throughout the game, you may encounter various hazards that will negatively impact your ability to race. Let's give you a few examples. Heroes will cause you to crash if you enter the same space as them, but will be removed following the crash. Tar spills will cause you to end your movement immediately and reduce your speed setting by 1. Fang roots will cause you to crash if you enter the same space, but are not removed. Also, if you end your turn in a space adjacent to a fang root, you'll spin out. Zombies cause racers to spin out of the same hex as entered and will be discarded just like heroes. And that's a few descriptions to give you the taste. For additional hazards in the game, please refer to the hazard guide provided. Now once every player has had a turn to move, the round comes to an end. You'll adjust the player position on the placement track. You'll measure this by seeing how many hexes it would take to reach the end of the tile each player is in. If 2 or more racers are tied, they share the same spot on the placement track, but the following spot skipped to make up for the share. Now at this point, players will gain spells. Each player who has a spell token will turn it in to draw cards of the corresponding deck, based on the position they're in as noted on the placement track. Spell cards are ways players can potentially catch up, or even maintain their lead. Each will come with an ability that can be utilized on your turn. Here's a few to give you an idea. The last thing you'll do is pass the first player marker clockwise, and you're now ready to begin the next round. You'll keep playing until 1 player crosses the finish line. This means that this round will be the last. The round will finish and the player furthest ahead past the finish line wins. If there is a tie, coins will be the tiebreaker. And that's Dungeon Kart. Thank you so much for racing through this video. Do you have any questions?
Wow, that was very, very clever. But you're right. If you have any questions, let us know down in the comments below, and we'll be sure to try and get you the answer.
Exactly. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Let us know in the comments down below. We always love chatting with you.
Until next time, happy gaming. Bye!